A Tale from the Enchanted Forest by Helen Kettridge. Early one morning, a small golden glow, an enchanted forest began to grow. And before very long, in the moonbeams pale, there began to grow an enchanting tale. It began with a neat little toadstool house, and 3 small gnomes and a fairy mouse. First there was Ragnar, and soon Oswald came, then sweet fairy mouse and Magnus the gnome. As together they pondered who'd come to live there, all they could do was to stand and to stare, and remain very quiet as Froglet jumped out onto a tree stump, knobbly and stout. The next thing they spied was a rainbow of fungi, a magical circle where fairies might fly. The 4 friends just watched without saying a thing, as Froglet jumped onto the fairy ring. And before they could stop him, he'd bounded straight in, right into the middle. That's not a good thing. The 4 friends just gasped as the frog disappeared, then saw that he'd changed, just as they'd feared. For there, in the place of the Froglet of green, a tiny grey mouse could plainly be seen. Unobserved by our friends, in the bushes nearby stood a shadowy man, a sinister guy. Dressed all in black, silent and still, he was waiting and watching intently until, in the blink of an eye, the bad man leapt out, put the mouse in his sack. What a terrible lout! Our 4 friends were startled, not believing their eyes. The things that had happened was such a surprise. They just stood astounded and fixed to that place as the bad man ran off at a staggering pace. So what to do now? The gnomes were perplexed, but Fairy Mouse knew what they ought to do next. The bee of knowledge is the one that we need. She'll know what to do about this misdeed. The bee listened well to their sorrowful tale, and suggested they visit the great rainbow snail. So away went the friends after saying farewell to look for the snail with the rainbow shell. They travelled all day through the fields and the trees, and they felt the warm sunshine and magical breeze. The snail was so helpful, and said they should ask a wonderful creature who'd help with their task. Hidden away amongst green men and flowers lay Martha the moth with remarkable powers. For her magical skills sense all those who are sad when something has happened, distressing or bad. "Follow me," offered Martha. "I think I know where the wee mouse is hidden, in Badman's lair. I can follow the sparkly, shimmering traces that float in the air in all sorts of places." They set forth, but soon met a lovely new friend. Pip the pixie was clever, she'd lend them a hand. When the story was outlined, a plan was devised. "We need Joseph the bird too," the pixie advised. "We'll write Badman a note saying, 'Go to the ring where another wee mouse is sitting therein.'" So Joseph and Martha flew off on their mission, and Fairy Mouse too joined the grand expedition. The note was delivered. Badman took the bait. He set off directly. He just couldn't wait. Ahead of the bad man, 3 gnomes could be seen, walking so swiftly across meadows green. When the 3 gnomes arrived, they hid in the trees, nervously waiting, all ill at ease. Meanwhile, in a basket, Fairy Mouse found the tiny mouse hidden there, all safe and sound. They too headed back to the ring of toadstools, wandering over the fields and the hills. When Badman arrived, he looked closely to see where the promised wee mousie could possibly be. As Badman stooped over, the 3 gnomes appeared, with courage and spirit, no longer afeared. And they pushed the bad man, yes, they pushed him so strongly, he fell in the ring while the gnomes looked on sternly. And all of a sudden, the ring glowing bright, Badman was transformed in a twinkle of light. Once more the gnomes gasped, and together they chorused, Is this the fairy princess of our forest? Each gnome looked befuddled, each furtled his beard. This occurrence is really exceedingly weird. Hello, said the princess, Belissa's my name, and I'll tell you one day of how I became a horrid bad man. It was really unpleasant. Thank goodness you've saved me. It's quite the best present. Then Fairy Mouse came with the tiny grey mouse, saw the fairy princess by the toadstool house. You've come, cried Belissa. Quick, mouse, don't be slow. Can you see that the fairy ring's starting to glow? The mouse took a leap, the friends all agog. In a flash it had happened, the mouse was a frog. It's Froglet, cried Oscar and Magnus and friends. Is this the place where the story now ends? But no, here's Belissa, picks up the green creature. Before they could stop her, before they could reach her, she'd kissed that green frog quite full on the face. A magical twinkling, and there in its place stood the lost fairy prince whose name was Amir, who, several weeks earlier, had just disappeared. Belissa exclaimed, I'm so happy you're back, and I'm awfully ashamed I put you in a sack. Now you can move out from your toadstool home, and we'll give all our thanks to the mouse and the gnomes, and the bee and the moth and the colourful snail, and the bird and the pixie who followed the trail. For now we're together, with laughter and fun, we'll feast and we'll frolic and dance in the sun. And one day we'll rule as my father has promised, the place that we love, our enchanted old forest.